Hello, good afternoon. Today we're gonna be playing League of Legends, but before that, I just wanna, chat for a while and maybe scroll on YouTube, maybe, or like check out some lore. Because I haven't read in quite a while. And finally, after 6 days of not being able to stream, we're finally back live. It's because I've had various reasons. I have kept you updated on my Discord server. And well, I got busy yesterday. What's up, Jay? Do we play Arena? I kinda wanna play Arena. What's new with Arena ba? I enjoyed editing my new overlays today. I mean yesterday and the other day. I made them for 2 days. Worked on it the entire Friday. No, Saturday. Yeah. I finished it this morning. Because of the playlist. My playlist yesterday was a banger. And that includes this song. Hello, Matt. It's been a long time. How you doing? Pakinggan yung what? I found this song because of the meme. The one where the guy was he made a 4D computer setup where when he plays a game, everything actually triggers the whatever he has set up there on his room. It was crazy. Alibay, I already listened to it, but like I didn't like the full song. Sadly, I was kind of disappointed, lol. I mean, I've heard the original. The sample, it's not that good as I expected it to be when it got released. But it's alright. Wait, let's play it. Ayan, oh. Alibi. Also, I love the chorus. It was really hyped up because of TikTok. But I don't know. Or maybe it was because of the music video. I expected more. What should we do today, chat? Do we play SD? I don't feel like playing. Feeling like queuing for ranked. Gumawa talaga tayo ng bagong pautot. I like the chorus, but that's it. You know what? I've only played Arena for like 4 games. Should we do that today? Including this, what do you call this? Eventing in the client. I haven't done it yet. This one ba? What is this about? It has rewards? Huh. And I'm on my main account, lol. I miss my skins. We get to actually try this thing. What is this? Is this like the Spirit Blossom? Sentinels of Light, Camerloo? Because I
remember it like it was yesterday.
Okay.
Perhaps it was. To me, time is meaningless. You marched into my home. You didn't even bother to knock. Though if you had, I wouldn't have answered. But even then, I knew something was different about you. You came to my forge not out of some selfish need for one of my weapons, nor out of foolish curiosity. You had come to help a friend.
Hello, sir.
Friend. Isn't that a funny word?
Okay, I thought this was supposed to be like a teaser for the next summer event. But apparently it's dedicated for Aurora and Ornn's lore update. Which I love, by the way. I wish they would do this every time they release a new champion. Because it's so much interesting to read about the lore if they have voice dialogues and all that. Really, do you have any idea when will be the next patch? Is it like next week? Ah, the week after next. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So it's on my birthday. Oh my gosh, Aurora is meant for me then, Char. Hello, Wins. Good afternoon. Biggest patch. Oh, right. Because I probably because of the new RGM. Ramarg. What? Is that his real name? I'm good, Wins. What about you? Hold on, chat. Wait. I'm trying to babysit at the same time while I'm trying to stream. So we just chilling today, chat. Why is the QR code persistent? What? Should I remove that later? I've traveled across the failure to see if you know anything about my friend. I think if I remember correctly, Aurora's friend is also Ornn's sibling. Diba? One of my many siblings is all I can tell. Oh, very good. Let's clean up and help speed things along. What do we have to do? Now I'm kinda excited to be able to try Aurora. I know she's out on PB already. Pick lahat. Oh, okay. Ay, Bobo. I didn't wanna go there. Can we go back? How do we go back? Ay, Bobo.
Finally, you've returned. Let's get on with it then.
How do we... Oh. Reading room. Ornn has one? Okay, now we're definitely checking out Aurora. There's actually a Runeterra, I mean Legends of Runeterra card of this guy. You like return it? Oh. What is this? Ooh. Okay. To use a reading book, if only to keep you from leaving books all over your place.
Well,
So many books. So do we like return the books? Ooh. Okay. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's cute. What is this? Ooh. Whoa. What's this? Huh? Oh, that is so cute. Huh? This is even for what? Do we have to collect more rocks?
Ito! Sino to? Dala. No.
Ha!
Okay, it doesn't belong here. I tried.
Hindi. Babae naman kasi ito. Kaya ko yung dati.
We have to find more? What happens if we find more than we can? Like... Whoa.
Ano yung sasakyan ko? Nakaapak dyan. Ay! Kahulog ko rin!
Doesn't belong here. Guess we go back to the Tokurimatsu. About
Hirap naman kung comment.
oh no, it's the main hall. I thought we were in the
Rocks kasi ito. Uy!
do we have to balance something?
Sino yun? Hintayin na ako, friend.
Where else do I find stuff? I have some books. Okay, this one's complete.
Diba ko? Nakakuha pa kanina. Pati ko na kayo.
Oh! Then maybe this doesn't belong here? Oh, okay. Do we have to like sort it? Oh! Huh. Ah. I'm so confused right now. This volley. Where's your other hand? Oh, this doesn't belong there. Oh, okay. Good. Okay. Do I need one more book? So this definitely belongs here. See, Ornn's left. Yeah. Oh. Did I complete that? Like so? The one with the fire. Good. Wait, where does this belong? Oh, you can read? What? Okay, I got it right, I think. Prevent a storm for a worry yard. Is that his actual name? Balhir? And the formation of Borihard. Lard, or I don't know. Back when the failure was Leilan. 5 fjords. Vivid descriptions of Valhyr's early exploits from the formation of the 5 fjords, his battle with Rond. Who's Rond? A history of the first strikes of the Freljord. Since the demigods were more active, right? Who wrote these stuff? Offerings and blood, pages of detailed descriptions of Valhyr's worship. Ah, okay, so this... I should place Lysandra here, I believe? Yeah. Okay, my bad. I'm on it. Is that correct? I don't think so. Later. But this is correct, right? I got it right. But why is it not glowing? This one is not glowing. Is that how it's supposed to be? Fire. Like that. What the hell is going on? Oh, okay. Got it. My bad.
Pambi.
She just pulled the pun.
Pre.
I still laugh about this one.
Yan, sige. Up down.
Far below the mountain, a life of
Down,
solitude.
pre. Hindi. Pre naman kasi.
Who wrote these books? Volcano's Rest, an encyclopedic record of the formation of Romark's home.
Niya. Ni pa. Ni.
Oh, he lives on a volcano. Just like just like if you say this, or I don't know how you say his name, the Greek god with gorgeous stuff. The sparsest of the volumes on our work, it speaks mostly to the loss of this history over the years. Aww. Blacksmith's legacy. The centers around all the incredible weapons and tools. Oh, okay. Story of the Hearth warrior. Who are those people? And you know what, chat? You can actually read more about this if you play Legends of Runeterra. I've heard this story many times because some pages about war and then my gods. Balhir and Ramon. Why did Ornn and Volley fight each other? Oh, Saint! Yes, yes. I mean, we're not playing yet. We're checking out Ornn's lore update. Depiction of the fallout from Ramark and Valhir's battle. Glosses over how sad Ramark. Aww. You just hover on the books. Some speculative fiction. Oh, patatas. Some speculative fiction about the future of a failure. The author's bias is pretty evident. Who wrote these books, though? Curious. Okay, let's complete Valhir's bookshelf or bookshelf about him. Wait. Okay. My brother's rage still echoes through the stones of his face. Poor Ornn. Are they okay now? Fjords, I think we're the... If you watch Volley Bear's champion teaser or something, or highlight before, like years back, you'll see other kind of like polar bears or something. Maybe those are the fjords? Pages of detailed descriptions. Blood offerings. Why? Story of Valhir. Oh damn, really? When the three sisters rose to power, they tried to take control of the fairy lord that made gods were changed forever. Book about the Ursine. Valhir's bloodthirsty followers. They are the only ones Valhir trusts now. I pray for him. The pain and fury of Valhir is now his reckoning in blood. He will return Vori Ha Riyad to the old ways. What is that? Even? I'm confused. So we have... Did I complete this already, or am they arrange it wrong?
Pipis naman kasi ko. Pipis. Isang gagalaw kong kamay.
Where do I put this thing?
Eh, galing mo naman ako dyan. Oh, ayaw niya, friend.
The three sister.
Friend,
Okay, first one on the left then. And what else? Like the freaking sound effect. Some of us want to help the spirits, not hurt them.
Friend,
What
ito na nga sa'yo.
exactly are these spirits?
At first, you were a nuisance, constantly underfoot. But it was surprising, the efficiency with which you worked. A task that would have taken others days, you finished in minutes. Oh, I wish you had gone about it silently.
Really? So back then, mortal and spirit realm used to be one? To stop the thunderous rise of power, each of the three sisters sought it in their own way and each paid the price. Brought below the story of Alessandra's battle with Volibear, who tried to conquer the mortal world and responded before her defiance. Sandra may have lost her sight, but with her sisters at her side, they were unstoppable. Only for a time.
Rule to play.
In dreams, this volume records her discovery of the void, the deal she struck for safety. The sisters disagreed with Sandra's controlling approach. She secretly begged the Watchers for more time. As the void erupted into North, Cassandra sacrificed her sisters, all the Iceborne by burying them in true ice. Sandra and her Frost Court are working to stop the melting true ice and rewriting the history of failure. And I don't really remember her lore, but I know for sure that she's the one who started the problem, and then at the same time she's the one who tried to fix it. Oh really? Damn, I don't really... I have to remember all that? Damn. I have to like... What about cheat sheet dyan? Let me take a picture of this one and then we copy it. Meron ka pre? Wait. Let's try. Okay, so we... What? The symbols are all so confusing.
The path to Hearth home. My followers used to sing this, back when Hearth home was filled with life. The Hearth blood were diligent and inspired, working the forges tirelessly to craft and create.
So this place is like, remember when Thor had to find a store or whatsoever, and then he met this dwarf so that he'll make his hammer again? That place. That's what it reminds me of.
Now these halls are empty.
Aw, that's sad. Okay, next would be volleys. We have to take a picture of it. Yeah. That one. Okay, so... so loud.
The relentless storm. An apt name for a song sung in the name of Volibear. The Ursine are as wild as he is, giving their lives in dedication to the old ways. Voyard has lost its ferocity,
Voyard.
and Volibear will revive it with blood.
Who does he have to kill for that? What? No, I don't understand. Okay, so for Lysandra... Bad yan, Cade. Ano ngayon kung babae, ha? Ano ngayon kung bakla? Bad yan. Huwag mo sinasabi yung ganyan, na. What's next? With this one.
The song of the Ice Witch. I have heard her frost god sing this, the mountain winds carrying it from their citadel.
Ah, okay. So it's called Citadel. And because if I remember correctly, the Citadel's door is what Rom is carrying right now.
But the petty squabbles of mortals are not my concern. They will pass again in the blink of an eye.
Hestrel, that's how you say his name. Is that it? I think we've got everything. Oh no, never mind. We still have to return the tools. Have I not clicked? Have I missed something? But do I have to like... This item does not belong naman daw. What?
It is a
Oh, so I really have to just, you know... I...
In my forge, there's a place for everything. My things were exactly where I needed them. I didn't need your help. Your system, however, calmed the chaos. Quite convenient.
That's cute. Okay, I think we're done, right? Oh no, the stones thing. Do we have to collect more? Did I miss anything here? Smelter. Nothing else really. Oh. Molten copper. This one? How do I know if it's the molten copper? Star metal. Then gold. Huh? Silver steel. Which is which? How do I know what it's called? Ah, okay, never mind. Star metal. Molten copper is what? This one? At ayaw lumabas. Okay. Believe this one is a silver steel.
Well? I cannot remember the last time anyone spent so long in my presence. Conversations are exhausting. Interruptions become frustration. You asked many questions, but I didn't mind answering them. I like that you listen.
Library. Ah. Not all you answers. It's Once a place for mortals and the spirits of the failure. So here, I know so much about spirits, but I have so many questions about them. We can find your answers.
It was difficult for me to say at the time. No. Impossible. I was too proud. But you... You were quiet and unobtrusive.
What? He is that big?
Inquisitive, yes, but not annoying. Time with you is always well spent. You are different. Worthy of the wand I forged for you. I still prefer solitude. It's when I do my best work. But, friend, yes, it
So
is
cute.
a funny word. I remember.
So cute. I love it. We should always do this whenever they release a champion. Because that way it's much more interesting, especially for those who are into lore. So cute. Apparently that lagged me a lot. Sorry about that, Thunder. I'm excited. I'm gonna check out. I think Aurora's lore is already out, but I will check it when she's released before we try her. If that's even possible, because you know, as usual, whenever there's a new champion released, people auto lock. She's pretty interesting, but I really think she's gonna be annoying to play against.